everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the vlog. As you can probably tell from the title of this video, we are going to be reading some YA fantasies. I've been wanting to do a book unhaul for quite a while, but before I do an unhaul and film it for you guys, I'd like to quickly go through some YA books in a vlog. It's not going to be rapid fire for me because I have to read them, but for you all in this vlog, I will just be picking them up, talking about them, letting you know whether or not I'm going to keep them, whether I liked them. Most of them are probably going to be like first in a series, so maybe this will be like start some series, unhaul some series type. I don't know what I'm going to title this as of right now, but you'll see. You'll have all the details of this video. Everything behind me is unread, which is a lot of books. The majority of what I have is fantasy or sci-fi, mostly fantasy, and starting from about we'll say about right here. I'm not sure everything is in its right place, but we'll say right here is where YA fantasy starts and it ends here, continues over here, there, continues down here. This is like my Xbox shelf, and then continues there, and then the first book on this little cubby area right here is YA fantasy. So I have quite a few. A majority of them are also first in a series. I used to do this thing where I'd buy multiple books in a series before I start them. I don't do that anymore for like normal reasons. We're gonna start with a divisive book because I'm either gonna keep it or not. So I have Three Dark Crowns by Kendare. I remember when this first came out and a bunch of people were talking about it. I believe in this book we follow three sisters who have different types of magic, and at some point they do have to like fight each other or some competition where one of them comes out on top. Competitions were pretty popular at the time. This is of course a fantasy. I remember a lot of complaints about this one being that there wasn't a ton of action in the first book. Heard people say like nothing happened, which is, I don't typically give those reviews out for books. Nothing happened because almost all the time the author, I feel, is like trying to make something happen. It's just taking its time. So we're gonna start with this. I'm pretty open-minded about everything that I'm reading in general. I'm not looking to be hyper critical, so hopefully I like it. If not, I'm trying to get rid of books anyway, so I'm not gonna be too bad of trying something and not liking it. So we're gonna start with this one. On top of that, there are a couple things I do want to do today. It is a Monday, so I already have low energy. My Mondays are the worst. I do have to do some chores. I am listening to an audiobook. It's not gonna be part of this vlog. It's just well, you'll know whenever I do another recent reads, but I have a couple stuff that I have to do, so I can't power through this right now. Even though I've been in the mood to like power through books. I read a book somewhat recently that I pretty much read the majority of it in one day, which is great, and I kind of want to do that again, and YA is usually really good for that. But if you don't know, I typically do 30-minute intervals throughout my day to kind of keep the energy up and not get super restless. I do get restless pretty quickly, so I'll do 30 minutes of reading, 30 minutes of some other task, chore, duty that I have to do, 30 minutes reading, 30 minutes something else. Sometimes I alternate between a book and an audiobook, but that's typically how I go about my day. That is the start of the vlog. Sorry if it's a little wordy. I had a lot of thoughts, so I will get back to you when I have something to say about this baby. So peace out. Okay, so I did finish reading the first book of the vlog, Three Dark Crowns by Kendare. I can see why this gets mixed reviews. The summary is pretty much what I said before. We have three girls who are born to a queen, and at some point two of them will have to die in order for one of those girls to become a queen. And one girl is supposed to be a poisoner, another girl is supposed to be an elementalist, and the other girl is supposed to be like a naturalist. She's supposed to have control over like the flora and fauna around her. I can see why this gets critiqued though, and I do kind of have to agree from what I've heard, because a good chunk of this book, these three queens are getting ready to kind of start off this year where they're gonna try to pick each other off, and it's a lot of like warm up. It feels like a giant, like, not necessarily a prologue, but a giant introduction, and maybe the last 50 pages is when it kind of gets good in terms of like action and more plot points are happening. There are certain character decisions that like kind of just it doesn't make sense why some characters do certain things. Now, I've said before on my channel that I love books with a lot of details. I don't mind if it's slower or there's not a lot of fast moving parts if I'm getting some sort of world building, and I feel like we did get a lot of details here, but it almost felt like details about things that not necessarily you don't care about, but just details on like things that are so far removed from the story. I would have loved to know why this process happened. I want to know why for generations queens have had to kill off their sisters in order for them to be queen. Like, is there like, what's the origin story for that? Like, I don't even need like a whole long story. I need some kind of exposition there, because it was never really explained like why that has to be a thing. I don't know, like, I don't know. I would have liked to have known that. I would have liked to have been told also the kind of steps of this kind of competition thing. We're kind of just told, oh, the quickening is happening soon, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I know what quickening means in terms of like a pregnancy, but that's obviously like not what we're talking about here. The disembarkment, the blah blah blah, and I'm like, what do any of these parts of the competition, the whatever mean? Like, I just need more detail about the story. But we did get details about like other characters and stuff. I was like, not to say that's not important, but it really doesn't feel that important. We also got a lot of side character stuff, which I usually don't mind fleshing out side characters a little bit, but there's at one point when we were following the naturalist queen, we meet one of her good friends, her like confidants, who is like helping her grow her naturalist powers. At some point we got that friend so much, I was like, this friend, she's probably gonna be like a secret queen or something. Like, I was creating theories as to why like we're getting so much page time with this side character. No reason other than she just gets a lot of page time. I needed this book to focus on the queens and why they have to kill each other. No explanation given. It doesn't seem logical. Like, why can't one of them become like the queen of the entire island and the other two just like, I don't know, are subordinates or something, right? Like, I've never read a plot like this, but I feel like if another author might attempt something like this, they would have more like explanation as to why this is something that occurs on this island. Yeah, anyways, so I think the next book that I'm going to pick up is The Reader by Traci Chee. This is the first book in the Sea of Ink and Gold series. I've never really heard too many people talk about this. All I really know is that this book has to do with books not being allowed or banned, or they don't really exist. We follow a character named Sephia who has been on the run with her aunt for quite some time until her aunt gets like kidnapped or taken, and so she goes on, I guess, on this journey with a book, which is rare, or they don't exist. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it's a fantasy, it's YA, obviously, like everything else that's gonna be in this vlog. So yes, I will pick this up. We'll see how far I can get today. This one I know the least about. I'd never really hear people talking about this one. I'm not familiar too much with this author either, so I believe this might be a trilogy. I know there's at least 3 books in the series. It might be a trilogy, so yeah. Okay, so I am going to DNF this. I don't know what it is about some of these books not giving anything. I am about 90 pages in and the author has yet to kind of explain anything going on. I have no idea like the purpose of anything going on. Like, I can explain like what's happening, like our main character found a young man locked up in a crate, so she frees him. We also have like 2 pirates kind of making a deal about something, but I don't know the purpose of any of this. Like, I don't know why that little boy was captured. I don't know what these pirates are looking for. I don't know why our main character's aunt was taken. I don't know the why about anything, and that's the most frustrating aspect of this, because I've said this before, I can read through a book of world building. I can read through dry, nothing happened types type of book, but I have to know at least the why. There's like hints of magic going on as well. Again, nothing is explained. It kind of, I don't know anything. Who our antagonists are. I don't know what their purpose is. I don't know anything about anything, and it's frustrating. And again, I'm 92 pages in. Like, I did give it some time, and I'm just, it's really unfortunate. I think this cover is so cool. I've had this on my shelves forever because, you know, I obviously wanted to read it, and it sucks like holding on to a book for so long, hoping that it'll be good, and then just like not having a good time. And I do want to have a good time. I am going to DNF this, and hopefully someone else has a good time with it, because, you know, and at the end of the day, this was like the purpose of this video, is to read some books and then let them go once I'm done with them. But I really wanted to like this. It looks so cool. Like, it's such a lovely like cover. Look at that. I don't know. As far as what I'll read next, I have had my eye on this book for quite some time. It's called The Storm Crow by Kalyn Josephson. I believe in this book, a certain country gets invaded, and one of the princesses of this country has to like make a deal with their invaders to like pacify them a little bit. And people, I think, ride crows. Also, another stunning cover. So I think we're gonna go with this. This one seems like it has a rebellion plotline, which are my favorites. So we're gonna read this next, and hopefully it's better than the last book. Okay, so I did finish The Storm Crow by Kalyn Josephson, and it was pretty much what I thought it was gonna be. As far as plot goes, pretty much what I described. We do follow a princess in this book, and her country gets attacked by this neighboring country. The country is not doing so well post attack. This country has relied on these crows for pretty much every aspect of their economy. They rely on them for weather, for goods, manufacturing, all that kind of stuff. There's these giant like crows, and they have like different abilities. There's like shadow crows, there's water crows, there's earth crows, and they all do different things, and they also like ride them. It's like a honor to be able to have this kind of mental spiritual connection with these crows. They're not like pets, they're like beings. But when they're attacked by this other country, first of all, they kill the queen, our main character's mother, and they kill all the crows and all the eggs that were waiting to be hatched. So this country's pretty much up shit creek, and that's pretty much like the first prologue chapter of this book. But in order to like appease this country that attacked our main character's country, our main character's older sister, who is now the queen in her mother's place, promises our main character to the prince of this attacking country to kind of like, not an alliance, but so much like, hey, we're not doing so well, we don't want any trouble anymore, just like let us be. And before she goes off to marry her fiance in this new country where everyone seems to dislike her, obviously, she finds an egg, a single solitary storm crow egg, and it could be the hope that her country needs to rebel a little bit. This book had a lot of things going for it that I really enjoyed, and some things that it didn't need work on. Overall, I would give this like a 3-star rating. It's very much in the middle. Things that I really like are some of these tropes that I'm already familiar with that I enjoy. I do love a rebellion. I do love some political drama going on. Our main character does spend a majority of this book in this country that essentially attacked her country. They have a very different like mindset on what it means to be like a good citizen of this country. They're very self-focused instead of like community focused, so they might even betray each other in order to like gain ranks and stuff like that, and that's something that our main character is used to. And of course, she does start forming a weird relationship with the man that she's supposed to marry. A big part of this plot is that our main character is going to try to form alliances with people from, again, other countries who've also been attacked by this main antagonistic country. So I love a rebellion. I love joining forces, political intrigue, all that kind of stuff is great. The storm crow, the riding the crows aspect, I really enjoyed that. Naturally, because of the plot, we don't get a ton of that since they've all been killed off, but I did like the concept of that. It reminded me of that. I really like the book. I forgot what it's called, but I think it's a Rebecca Roanhorse's like Maya Central American inspired fantasy series where they also have like giant crows. This kind of reminded me of that, at least the crow aspect, and I like that. I like different types of magical beings other than like dragons and stuff, so you have that here. But what I think definitely needed work is fleshing out the story a bit more. This is 330 pages. The story did follow like a good progression, I guess. This was like the definition of like, let me just tell you what you need in order to like move the story along. I wish the author took some time to kind of flesh out some of these things, and maybe this could be me as a, like, my biases. When I read fantasy, I love details. I love a detail. I know sometimes fantasy readers don't like excessive world building. I feel like this needed a bit more. The author would somewhat touch on like the creationist story about these crows, like how did they come to be, what's the theology behind it, and we got hints of that, and then she'd like move on. This author's like, it seems like this author really just wanted to hit each and every single plot point with like a fine sense of pacing. I just wanted, I guess, more in general. Like, for example, when our main character is in essentially the castle of her enemies, she's trying to like build a rebellion, and she's trying to find out what she can do with this one crow egg that she finds. And so she's like we'll see her escape from the castle for an evening and then come back the next morning, and it's a very like nonchalant way of doing it. Like, at no point does she describe like the tension of like avoiding the guards, of sneaking back in. Did no one notice that she was missing all evening? You know, little things like that. There's not a lot of tension built into this for a majority of the book, where our main character is like in the castle of her enemies under the eye of this queen that attacked her nation. There's not a lot of tension. Like there are moments when this evil queen is like threatening her, but other than that, I didn't really feel like, oh my god, like this could go south quickly. I kind of had a sense of like everything's gonna be okay in the end, which you can maybe assume from why I wish there was more of that build up. I feel like it's just that I've read so many stories with plot points similar to this, or themes similar to this, where I've read, you know, the building tension, the worry of like, what if I get caught, what if someone, you know, captures one of my allies, things like that, and I just get none of that from here. Again, I do like some of these elements here, but I just wanted more exploration. But I guess if you're a fantasy reader that just wants to like hit the main important points in a story, this is that, I guess, because this is a fine book. And I don't know if I'll continue on with the series. Like I don't know if I'm running to my library to pick up books 2 and 3. If they're available, maybe. This is very much like an okay read. Don't know when to pick up next. I'll probably read about like 2 more books for this vlog and then end it, but I will come back when I decide what to read next. Hi, so I did end up picking up another book. Like I said I would. This is There Will Come a Darkness by Katy Rose Poole. I don't have the cover for the book. I bought it without it, and it was like really cheap because of that. Put the cover like right here. I picked this up. I remember when this book was first being like pushed like on Bookstagram and stuff when it was first coming out, and I really wanted to read it. It sounded right up my alley. The summary that is provided is, for generations, the 7 prophets guided humanity with their visions, ending wars and uniting nations until the day they vanished, leaving behind the promise of a looming age of darkness and the birth of a prophet who could be the world's salvation or the cause of its destruction. So I thought, first of all, that sounded cool. I also knew going into it that this was going to be like a multi-POV story, which I tend to really love those in fantasy. The last book that I read was a single POV. This seems to have like at least 3 so far, maybe 4 while I'm flipping through the book. It seems to have 4, so I love that as well. I've read like about 30-ish pages, and the influences seem to be like Greek, like Mediterranean, as far as like the vibes, like the setting goes. And tell me this does not look like a kind of inspired Mediterranean map, you know what I mean? Like this look like the Mediterranean, this looks like the Greek like islands, this kind of looks like an Italy shaped whatever, this looks like the top of Africa, and here's that. That's what it reminds me of course, like changed slightly, but that's kind of what the vibe is. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. Don't have much more to add, but on top of that, there seems to be certain plot lines that are going to be intriguing. In this world, there are these people who are graced, who have like either powers of like the mind, the heart, the blood, the sight, which is like, if you have the grace of heart, you have like enhanced strength, agility. If you have the grace of blood, you have like the ability to like heal people. If you have the grace of mind, you can create objects with like unique properties. And if you have the grace of sight, you have like enhanced senses to locate people. And these graced have pretty much existed for quite some time, but since these prophets have disappeared, people in general kind of don't trust graced people anymore. So it's kind of like turning their back on magic, that kind of theme that you sometimes see in fantasy books. I think that's interesting. There's also some political drama that we are slowly touching upon. One of our characters is from this, the book seems to take place right here, but one of our characters is from right here, and there seems to have been an uprising, and he's a prince. He secretly like left the city for safety reasons. So yeah, seems to have a lot of things going on already, but I am enjoying it so far. So I will check in when I want to update. So I did finish this book, There Will Come with Darkness by Katy Rose Poole. First off, let me say, you might not notice it because I'm editing the video straight through, but some time has passed and that could affect my rating, but I'm pretty confident in my 3-star rating for this book. I had high hopes for this book because a lot of the elements that were in it do appeal to me. One of my favorite things one of the things I was looking forward to this book is obviously the plot, the story, but also the multi perspectives. I expect a lot from books that have multiple POVs. I love reading a story and seeing different people's takes on it, but one thing that was like super clear is that each character, despite the fact that they have different upbringings, some were born wealthy, some were born more like sheltered, some are poor, men, women, whatever, they all kind of feel the same despite going through different traumas. They all kind of just read the same. We're so lucky that this book, each chapter begins with like the name of the character that we're following, and their own stories are unique, you know what I mean? Like, it's not hard to confuse like this necromancer character with this like warrior type character. I can tell the difference, but they don't really feel that different, which makes me sad because some of my favorite books do have multi perspectives and they're so rich. Like, the characters feel so realized. The Diviners is one of my favorite books. Each character feels so different. It's not my favorite book in the world, but it is highly praised for its characters, and that is Six of Crows. That duology, those characters feel different, and I was hoping to get that in this book and I didn't. As far as the story goes, I like the majority of it. I was so excited for the story, this like prophetic like age of darkness is coming, whatever. It sounds so cool, and for the most part it was like a good plot. I will say one thing that I really dislike, and I'm seeing it more and more in books, like it's something that's just jumping out to me more, something I'm noticing more. It's not something that's new. I feel like it happens sometimes, is that when plots progress because characters have to make a dumb decision that they otherwise might not, or it's not something that I expect them to do. Obviously, you know, we make stupid mistakes all the time, but some of these mistakes are very like big mistakes. I don't want to call out specific instances for spoiler reasons, but just like one particular character, Jude, made so many choices that at some point I was like, okay, making one mistake, one choice, fine. Making like 2 or 3 in a row, it's not, I don't, it bothers me so much, and that those choices were necessary for the plot to continue. But otherwise, the rest of the time, these characters are pretty like level-headed. You know, they know what they have to do. I forgot to mention, because all the characters feel the same, there's one particular character that kind of stood out, but that's because he's so very different from everyone else. Most characters have like a real feasible goal that they're working towards, except for one character, Anton. He's kind of running from something. He's not trying, so he just feels very different. I do also want to say that this is a very non-heteronormative type of world. There are relationships kind of brewing here, and because I have no connection to these characters because they're not distinct, I didn't really care about the relationships, but I thought I'd mention it because some characters entering with relationships with the same gender, some are not, but there's never a conversation or even like a mention of like some sort of like identity attached to it. Like, there was never a discussion of like, do you prefer boys or girls, like if that's like something that needs to be talked about. It was never brought up, so I just thought I'd put that out there. If you're looking for reads that kind of have that built into like the culture of the world. There was a little bit of a plot twist that I didn't see coming. I was focusing on another aspect of the story so much because it seemed so obvious, but the author was working on something else and it caught me by surprise, so I appreciated that. But yeah, overall 3 stars. I had higher hopes for this. Plot could have brought it up to like a 4.5, but those like dumb decisions to move the story forward, I hate that. It's something that I'm picking up more on. So yeah, as far as what I'll read next, I really want to get this video done and over with so I can upload it and work on something else. I hate working on multiple things at once, so I'll probably pick up like a fast read, obviously still YA fantasy, but I'll let you know when I pick something up. So peace. So I did pick up a book, The Bells by Dhonielle Clayton. This will be the last book for this vlog. What can I say? So I'm about 100 pages in. This book is about a fictional world called Orleans. It is French inspired, like pre-revolutionary France vibes. In this world, everyone is kind of born gray. They're born basically like not beautiful, and there's a select few people who are born with like beauties, and they're called bells, and one of our characters is a belle, and she really wants to be like the belle of like the queen's belle, her like right hand beauty person who like makes people beautiful. I'm not really sure like the extent of like the magic or the arcana as they call it in this book. There's not much going on so far. Like there's not really like a major conflict that has popped up so far. It is only 100 pages of like 400 and it's a little over 430 pages, so there's not a huge conflict. Our main character did receive like some bad news. Other than that, there's nothing major going on right now. I think it's progressing fine, and since we're still in like the world building part of the book, I kind of wish that the author is describing like this magic beauty thing going on a bit more, but we'll see. I'm intrigued enough. That's the update for now. I also cut off like 6 inches off my hair. You probably can't tell. My hair used to reach basically where my crack is, and now it like reaches like to like mid back. So I did cut off a lot of my hair because it was bothering me, and it's so hot. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. So okay, all right, so I just finished the last book of the video. I finished The Bells. I'm giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I'm really pleasantly surprised, and I'm really glad I ended on a fairly good note, better than a majority of the other books in this video. When I was reading this, it kind of reminded me of another magic system, like Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, which makes me laugh because I don't know, there's a certain type of like, I think Sanderson fan that might like be like offended by this comparison. The Bells do have like this natural ability to like change people's appearance and make them more beautiful, but they do need like tools to help them do that. I don't know, it kind of reminded me of like Mistborn in a way. But like I said before, like 100 pages in, there wasn't a clear thread into the book, but immediately like after that, I could start to see like an actual like problem arising, something that's like worthy of like writing a book about. I really didn't know what I was expecting for this book as far as like the conflict goes, but it really ended up feeling very like a thriller-y, almost like looking over your shoulder, like who can you trust type vibe, which is always really fun. I don't get a ton of those books. This book had that thing in fantasy books where a character is asked to do something dangerous, and our main character is like, ooh, like I don't know if I should do that, that's like really, really dangerous. I, as the audience, know like they're gonna end up doing the thing that's asked of them. I know I'm being super vague, but I don't want to spoil the book, and usually like the book will like show why the main character needs to do this thing that's super dangerous. It's kind of that situation where it's like, if you are surrounded by your enemies in a siege, should you just like starve it out, or should you like fight? Either way, like lives are going to be lost. Either way, it's like a dangerous like option. I hope that kind of makes sense. Basically, our character is asked to do something. She's like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna do it, and I'm like, girl, you're gonna do it. Like, so I don't know why we're wasting time here. Do the thing that you're being asked to do. And eventually she does do the thing that she's being asked to do, but by then it's like cutting it close, and it's like, oh, like whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of moments of like tension, which is really great because a lot of the other books I read didn't have a lot of tension. This is the tension that I'm looking for. Because of the nature of this book, I kind of expected there to be some sort of message about like beauty, like outer beauty, and like how that matters. These girls are literally like changing the shape of people's faces, their skin tone, their hair color, their hair texture, all of it. So I kind of expected there to be some kind of theme, or like just like some kind of discussion of like, it's okay if like you have flaws or whatever, but there's not really much of that. Not that I mind, because it could be like heavy-handed if it's like inner beauty is more important than outer beauty or whatever, which like tea obviously, but also like you obviously do benefit from meeting certain beauty standards. So I'm glad that this book didn't kind of just like do like the wishy-washy Disney like, it's okay if like you have like a pimple or whatever. We don't really get that here, maybe later on in the next book, but for now it's not like a really heavy-handed like message of like inner beauty or whatever, which I do appreciate. This was fun in like a really page-turny way. I'm not saying like this is like the best thing ever, but I do think I appreciate the creativity in this kind of project. There's not much like this. There's one thing that kind of sticks in my mind that you can compare this to, and that's like the Ugly series by what's his name, Scott Westerfeld. That's kind of a similar vein as this, but yeah, not a ton of books on like physical beauty, stuff like that, in terms of sci-fi fantasy that I've read. I really like this. Again, 4 stars. And that pretty much wraps up my vlog. I'm definitely gonna keep this book on my shelves. This project was focused on like keeping or removing books from my shelf. My next video will be an unhaul, so keep an eye out for that. Just to recap, 3 Dark Crowns by Kendare Blake. I am interested to see where the series goes, but I don't think I'm gonna keep this on my shelves. Like, even if I do finish the series sometime soon, I'm not gonna want to keep it, at least this first book. If I end up liking the rest of the series and I want them on my shelves, I can get them later, but I'm not like super in love with the first book, so this one's gonna go probably. The Reader I DNF'd. I hope someone else likes this, but I was super bored 100 pages in. So The Stormcrow by Kalyn Josephson, 3 stars. This one I'm like not as inclined to continue. Like, if you were to try to sell these books to me again, this would be the one I'm more interested in reading, but yeah, this one's probably the weakest, not counting the DNF. This one, There Will Come a Darkness, again, don't have the cover, 3 stars. I'm gonna keep it for now. If whenever I get my hands on the second book, or if I borrow it from my library, if the series does not end up like giving what I wanted to give, then this will go. But for now, this will survive the purge. So yeah, that is the end of the video. That is the end of the vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this inspires you to like clear out your shelves. I do like watching vlogs where people like rapid fire like give reviews on the books that they've read. There's not a ton of b-roll, but I'm not really like a b-roll girl, and I don't know if people prefer more b-roll or not. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, feel free to talk to me down below in the comments about anything I've talked about. I like to hear anything you have to say down below. I will also link my social medias down below, as well as some far more important links. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.